Bruno Fernandes, new contract talks beginning. Manchester United find out what's happening with Tchouaméni as well. Lots to talk about as we head into a game week day where we're actually getting to play on a Saturday at 3 p.m., which is a nice treat for Manchester United fans. A normal kickoff time today. There is a lot planned for this afternoon. We've got a big watch along planned with guests on that one, and there's going to be a special show at full time as well. So make sure you get involved if you want to discuss the game on the channel as well. So that should be well worth looking forward to. Looking at this situation now, Manchester United have clearly got a bit of an issue here. That if you look at what's happened over the last couple of years, Manchester United have definitely been looking at trying to reduce contracts at the club. They're looking to reduce the wage bill, but this gives a bit of a problem now with Bruno Fernandes. If they're looking to try and sell Bruno Fernandes, there's not going to be the massive offers they got a year ago. There's not going to be potentially a lot of money coming in from Bruno's sale. I believe it would be about 55 million. There is like a release clause to top European clubs. So if Bruno Fernandes was going to go, you'd have to imagine that would be the sort of money we would get. And would you be considering to trying to sell Bruno Fernandes, or is it time to give him a contract extension, keep him at the club another couple of seasons? Do you think he brings in that? Like clearly, he's just won Writers' Player of the Year, so he's had a very good season. The question, I suppose, is going to be Manchester United's transfer window this year seems to be very much about building around what we've already got with Mainu and Bruno Fernandes. It looks like the attack might get an extra player. We might get a left winger, but the attack will stay largely the same with Bruno Fernandes, Cunha, and Buemo, Sesko. Potentially one extra signing in that mix, Dorgu and Lacey as well, with academy players coming through. If you're looking at the most business that we're going to do in the transfer window, we're linked to a huge amount of midfield players now. We're going to definitely rebuild midfield. We might be looking at a left back as well, potentially, looking at maybe a striker backup, goalkeeper backup. But most of the money seems to be spent behind Bruno Fernandes and then kind of sorting out that midfield between defence and where Bruno operates. The question is going to be, what would you do? Like, if you're looking at if we're going to try and rebuild Manchester United, and if Bruno Fernandes leaves, is it too much? Like, is it too much in one season to try and sort out? That's probably one of the questions we've got. So I'll go through some of the chat as well. Let me know what you're thinking. Rob said, yeah, talking about this game, yeah, we covered the game a lot yesterday, and maybe we're going to be seeing, I think we'll see the same as we normally see. I'd be surprised if we don't see him Bremo up front, but, Carrick seems to stick with what he's doing a lot of the time. Cake, welcome to the chat. Says, I'm not a big Bruno fan. He's had a good season. He will be offered a new deal 100%. But if you're ready for life without him, this is probably the question mark. If you're ready for life without Bruno Fernandes, what do Man United do? Like, are we looking at, is there a player at the club that can jump into Bruno Fernandes' spot, try and do what Bruno Fernandes does, or we're going to have to spend quite big money? That's probably the situation. And so, why are we talking about a new contract? I think it's because Bruno Fernandes has been in the story that apparently, because of the situation at the club, because of Bruno Fernandes, if they let his contract go down too much more, then I think the option wouldn't be used, and it would be a question of like, do they build around Bruno for the next couple of seasons, or does Bruno Fernandes want to leave the club? I think there was definitely lots of talk last year about Bruno Fernandes, whether he's going to stay, whether he's going to leave. I think the question for me would be, do Manchester United, is there a transfer target out there that you would feel comfortable with Manchester United buying and coming in replacing Bruno Fernandes? So at the moment, it feels a little bit like if we had to just make a decision of what we're going to do next season, there seems to be a lot of things to sort out at the club. That maybe Bruno Fernandes is something where there's no doubt that Bruno Fernandes isn't really dropping off a cliff performance-wise. He doesn't have injury issues. He doesn't have disciplinary issues. He's not picking up stupid red cards like some players. He's not injured at all. He is going to be an important player next season. I think if you're looking at trying to sell him, then there's not going to be lots of money coming in. I think it was a different story maybe 12 months ago when people thought maybe a club in Saudi Arabia was looking at spending maybe 100 plus, 150. I can't remember how much the exact figures were, but it was a lot of money to try and you would get a lot of money for that one. I think Bruno Fernandes clearly he's come out recently and says he wants to stay at a club where he's got a chance of winning something, and clearly that's something with a motivation for Bruno. I mean, Manchester United fans look at our club at the moment. Are we in a position to win a trophy next season? Are we going to be close enough to win some of the bigger competitions? I think in the next year it's going to be quite difficult to see how much we can do regarding this. How close do we get to the big competitions? But if you're looking at a couple of years' time with a good rebuild, then maybe Bruno Fernandes is thinking like maybe he could be looking like a Brian Robson type career where he unfortunately has to wait till the end of his Manchester United career to actually try and get these sort of things done. That's the situation I'm thinking regarding this one. It might be that for Bruno Fernandes, maybe he's just at Manchester United at the wrong time, and it's going to be quite difficult for him to get a lot of trophies at United. But when you're looking at it, Manchester United have to make a difficult decision. The question really would be like, what would you do in this position? So I'll go through some of the chat and see what your thoughts would be. Yeah, Xerxes. I, I think Xerxes is just going to be moved on. I don't see if Xerxes is going to be playing too much, to be honest. Um, Con saying you would get Rogers as a 10. I've heard people say that they would be looking at trying to get Mainu maybe further up the pitch as a 10, which feels a little bit. I know it feels there's no. Okay, Mainu looked quite good in a couple of games recently, but I think that would be difficult to try and see Rogers doing what Bruno Fernandes does. I mean, Rogers looks quite good, decent player. I'm not sure if he could do that. It would require a bit more of a change, wouldn't it? Tony says we could change formation and play a 4-3-3 like most teams. Do you get the feeling that when people are looking at the transfer window, and this is something that I discussed with one or two guests recently, is are Manchester United, and this is what we discussed actually after we did the stream yesterday. And if you saw the tactical stream yesterday, we did this. We had the tactics board. We looked at the option playing 4-2-3-1. After the stream finished and we'd finished talking about the match, we had a quick look at the squad and we were just trying to drag the team into a 4-3-3 formation. And I think with a 4-3-3 formation, you start looking at different players. And I think this is what Manchester United might be gradually moving towards. So if you're looking at a situation for the future, I think the future might be they're looking at getting a left wing player in. They've already got some options on the right. And I think Manchester United will eventually move to a 4-3-3 formation. I'm not sure how long that's going to take. It might not happen next season, but I think that's going to be the long term plan as well. So in that case, that the transfer window would make a bit more sense. That what we're moving towards, I think, is a different way of playing as well. And the Hexen said, I would pay attention to left wing, as I think Dorga will interchange with Cunha. I'm not certain we will get a winger. It depends on what we're. If you're looking at Bruno Fernandes leaving the club and Manchester United playing 4-3-3 over, say, the next 12, maybe the next year, I think Bruno Fernandes will be here next season. I'm not sure how long he'll stay after that. And I suppose it's a difficult situation. If you give Bruno Fernandes a big contract extension now, it's going to be quite expensive. But also, is it going to keep Bruno longer than Manchester United actually want to keep Bruno? So it is a tricky one. I do get the feeling that he will be offered something, but I don't know if it's going to be a long-term deal considering his age. But we'll probably find out something fairly quickly. I think it's either going to get sold or kept. I think it depends on what Bruno wants to do. Last season, I got the feeling that Manchester United would like to sell Bruno, but I also got the feeling that Bruno Fernandes was not keen, or definitely not keen to move to Saudi Arabia at that time. So you actually don't mind Kobe when he's high up the pitch, can influence the game, just doesn't get into those positions enough. I think it's probably about getting team balance, isn't it? If you look at the squad at the moment, it's about trying to get balance in the team, and Manchester United have probably looked at it and said, actually, considering the players we've got in our team at the moment, Kobe Mainu is going to be more effective as a deeper position. So no, it's one to consider. But morning to you, Jim, as well. I'd say with this one, this could be the most important transfer window for 10 years. It probably is, because it feels a little bit like this is the first time Manchester United have got some significant momentum. There's a lot of things working in our team, got a decent goalkeeper. Most of the forward players over the whole season have contributed a decent amount of goals. We're scoring about the same amount of goals as City and Arsenal. So goal scoring in terms of like being up there is not really a problem at the moment. And Sesko and Buemo Cunha, they'll probably get more goals next season with more understanding. The question is going to be like if Manchester United get one or two key targets, and we're talking about expensive key targets, whether it's a Tchouaméni, whether it's going to be someone like Anderson or Tonali, all these players we talk about for a lot of time now. If you get one or two of those signings right, that could transform the window, can it? That could be what Man United are looking for. A good question from Deadpool, and this is the thing, isn't it? This is probably the biggest question. If Bruno Fernandes leaves, so I said this off screen last night because we were talking last night about the Sunderland match, and when we finished, my question was going to be: if Bruno Fernandes leaves the club, for me, the biggest thing United have got to make sure they do is you've got to make sure that Bruno Fernandes, for me, his replacement has to be at the club before he leaves. That if we look at selling Bruno Fernandes and trying to replace him, it's going to be tricky, isn't it? You need to have some overlap. So for me, well, when we got rid of when we loaned out Onana and we brought in Lamans, there was a lot of pressure on Lamans to work. Like, luckily, it did work really well, but it did feel a bit like, right, this if this doesn't work, it's going to be quite a problem because you've got the whole season with just Binder and a new goalkeeper. And it feels like if Bruno Fernandes got sold in the summer and we bought, say, for example, I think Yildiz has talked about, and people talk about Rodgers, they've got these options. Um, Morgan Gibbs White, another option. I think if you drop Morgan Gibbs White or you drop in Rodgers or any player into the 10 in Manchester United and expect the understanding between that new player plus Dorgu plus Cunha and Buemo, Sesko to work straight away, it's going to take some time. So for me, it feels a bit it feels almost like Manchester United haven't got something in place to get rid of Bruno this season. Like if you're looking at, and again, I'm not talking about getting rid of Bruno because I think Bruno's poor. I'm talking about long-term planning for Manchester United here. That if you want to see Bruno replaced, Manchester United need to buy someone like Rodgers, or they need to actually this season coming up, the next season, we need to actually play games where Bruno Fernandes doesn't start and we start with someone else and see how that works and gradually move away from it. But I think at the moment if Manchester United sold Bruno Fernandes, we might have the same situation Liverpool had last season. Liverpool moved on a couple of players. They didn't really, they replaced Trent and they tried to get some. They got someone that came in, but it didn't work for a while. They tried to shoehorn in quite a few different players, and they changed things too quickly, and it really made a big mess. And I think that's the worry I'm looking at regarding this one. And so the owners must have lied to Bruno to get him to stay. I don't think Bruno's wife wanted to leave, Jim. I don't think it was like I don't know what they'd have said to him, but um, you'd have to say that when Bruno Fernandes, like this the last summer, Man United actually bought some good players last summer, so maybe the transfer windows have actually moved in the right direction. And be it to you, Stephanie, and Karthik, be it to you, Karthik as well. So it's time to test Lacey, give him a start, test out a couple of academy players, and say ideal scenario for us. Then I think to be honest, like the game today, and you could be that it's the writers' player of the year is on the screen, and maybe he's going to be voted. I think he would be voted also by his peers. He's probably going to be the player of the year. Like if you look at any other player in the Premier League, I don't think anyone's like been contributing as much individually to that team as Bruno Fernandes. So I think he definitely is the player of the year. It just seems funny that there's a lot of a lot of times. So Lacey won't be playing last night. So if we get Rodgers, he's got plenty of years to get to where Bruno is. The problem is, Jim, that he has got time on his side. The problem is that if you replace Bruno Fernandes, then is there going to be a massive drop off in how our attack functions for the next couple of years? Because if that happens, then if we fix midfield behind Bruno Fernandes and we actually have better options between our defence and our attack, then what happens if our attack's dysfunctional next season because we try and drop in? If Rodgers isn't going to do what Bruno does next season, I don't think it'll be close. But if you got Rodgers at in the club for maybe a couple of years, or you got another option in the club for a couple of years, maybe you can look at that. I do see people saying that maybe Cunha could be that guy. Maybe Cunha could be doing that. But I think the thing for Man United to improve, you kind of need Bruno Fernandes there the next season, and you need to have we need to have this the team we got this season, but a better version. We need to have increased options in midfield, increased options in like attack and defence. And I think if we've got Rodgers in, Rodgers got potential, but I think Aston Villa definitely want to cash in. So it does make me think that are we buying a player that potentially we're helping out Aston Villa here? That if we're going to be buying a player to replace Bruno, is Rodgers good enough, or do we want someone that's going to be a different level, that's going to be a bit younger? Morning, Alex. So you think Cunha and or Mainu ultimately replace Bruno? Maybe we should try doing that. Maybe we should try a few games where we actually try and play somebody else in Bruno's position. Because the only way you find out if Mainu can do that is probably if you look at some of the players we're looking at signing, then if we got too many in the team, then Mainu's going to play further forward anyway. Like too many is going to be like 100% defensive. If you look at someone like Tonali again, that pushes Mainu forward. So maybe we are seeing that if Man United if we replace Bruno Fernandes, maybe we are looking at having like a too many plus a Belieber plus a Manu, a three-man midfield. So maybe we are looking at like Manu moving further forward. We're looking at maybe like a box-to-box midfielder. We're looking at also someone that's going to be more of a six that's going to be anchoring defence. So it could well be that we're looking at that. And maybe Cunha, I think Cunha is probably in the club is maybe the closest we got, and someone that is creative, has got a good shot. But I think this is one where it's probably that Bruno Fernandes, it's probably decision making, isn't it? And it's about the range of assists he does. I don't think Mainoo's got the passing game of Bruno yet. Like he hasn't got the long range passing. He's got a lot of other things. He's got the decision making. He's got the short term passing. He's got a decent shot, but yeah, it's he's 21 years old. I think we bought Bruno when Bruno was about 25, 26, so obviously a bit more experienced. It's genuinely quite difficult, isn't it? Cake's saying that we have to start thinking about moving away from Bruno sooner or later. Yeah, this is the kind of point of the stream that somebody sent me an article late last night, and the conversation is like, what happens? What do Man United do now? How do we move forward regarding this one? And I think what we have to look at is maybe the next transfer window brings in players that are able to change the way we play football. Like at the moment, 4-2-3-1's fitting our team. Everything does revolve around Bruno, which does make me feel that we are a bit reliant on Bruno Fernandes, which yeah, it's good that Bruno's been amazing this season, and it's good that he might break the assist record, but it does create a bit of a vulnerability in Man United squad that we are a bit reliant on one player, which is for me is never ideal to be too reliant on one player. Even if it was like it used to be Van Nistelrooy with the goals, and I think having like more attacking options or maybe more creative options would definitely be a positive. Morning, Andy. Good to see it. And we could even do it by signing Palmer, says Cake. No, I saw a story yesterday that said Cole Palmer potentially available for 90 million. I was I don't know. I'm not sure about Cole Palmer, to be honest. I think he's a good player. Is he a bit hit and miss with Chelsea? Like recently in the last few games where Chelsea have lost every single match, I don't see any of their players stepping up. So I'm not sure about that one. And say Bruno Fernandes could have 3 to 4 years yet, and then someone new might be classed. The thing is, also, maybe I should put a poll and saying, would you sell Bruno Fernandes or would you keep him? Because at the moment, if think about this, if Manchester United sell Bruno Fernandes, where does he go? Like you can't sell him to a Premier League team; he's too good. If you're looking at trying to sell Bruno Fernandes, you're probably looking at teams in different leagues. They're going to have to be Champions League teams. I'm not sure where he would actually go. The question would be is he then going to be causing a massive problem for your team? Like, are we going to end up playing against Bruno Fernandes? Because that would be a nightmare. I mean, we've benefited from Bruno for years with the assists. Can you imagine if he joined, if he sold him to Bayern Munich, for example? What's to say that Bayern Munich that don't sell him to Arsenal or Man City or Chelsea because he could play for another few years at least. So I'll put so I put a poll in the comments and say what would you do? I'll put one here and say I know what are the options of Bruno Fernandes? It's kind of tricky, isn't it? It's the best option. I'll put new contract as an option because that's going to be one where keep him at the club longer. At the moment, one thing I would say positive about Bruno is Bruno doesn't really seem to have he doesn't seem to be say speed orientated. He doesn't seem to be a player that's going to hit the wall naturally at a certain age. He does seem to be now what he's doing at the moment. He's been doing for years, and if anything, he's just refining what he's doing, and it's working well. So I don't see there being a particular problem. So new contract. Um, I suppose you could sell Bruno would be an option. It's not my option. It's not my favorite option, but it's something that people will be looking at. Or I suppose you could do nothing and let the contract run down and do yeah and do that. Like it could let its contract run down over the next couple of years. Leaves on a free. That's one option. It's I'll put that there as an option. So then that's a few, isn't it? So I think with United, we're not kind of forced into doing anything immediately, but you've got a few options there. New contract for Bruno, sell Bruno, let contract run down. I'll put that there just because that's probably the three options. I have no idea what's going to be a popular one by people watching, but that's the kind of fun of it. I'll just let that. So I'll just close. I can't actually see the vote, by the way. So people wondering, I can't see what the vote is. So I go by comments, and sometimes the vote. kind of surprises me because a lot of the comments might be positive or negative. But he could have 3 or 4 years left, and looking at this, you could then have the way I'd look at it is if Bruno Fernandes has got 3 years at the top doing what he's doing, Manchester United could build around Bruno Fernandes in the very short term in terms of fixing midfield behind him, getting maybe like one or two more options around him as well. But also, it does mean that next season they could look at refining the plan even more. And there might be, if Man United are going to spend, I don't know, 250 to 300 million over about 5 to 6 players this summer, maybe they can look at Bruno Fernandes as something they sort out a year later, where maybe it would be along the lines of if they think Yildiz is that person, then they could be looking at that. They could also change the way we play football as well and look at that, which I think is going to be honestly something they seriously consider. So, say three-quarter midfielders will help us transition to 4-3-3, says Tony. I think that's the plan. If you look at the plan and look at the transfers we're linked to, I think that is going to be the plan. That's going to be something that Man United try and do, and it would maybe change the way having a head coach who wants to play 3-4-2-1, then switching mid-season to 4-3-2, 4-2-3-1, which does work a bit better. I think the long-term plan for Wilcox was always to be a 4-3-3 team, and it could be something that Man United fans get on board with as well, where you're looking at that situation. It's something worth considering, isn't it? In terms of if Man United are looking at 4-3-3, then they are looking at wingers. I think it's something that Man United fans will be happy with because having wide wingers, having like a lot of width across the pitch at Old Trafford, it's something that we've kind of grown up watching, and it's something that could be very effective as well, stretching the game, helping us break down low blocks by just putting them out of position. I think it could be a positive. Say no to Palmer. I think so. Exactly, exactly. Big up to you, Sar, my man. Good to see you in the comments. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're looking forward to the game. I know where you are in Australia. I was trying to work out like where what time the game's going to be for you. Is it going to be one of these like 3 o'clock kickoffs? Is that going to be quite late at night for you? So I think you're quite a bit ahead. He's definitely been looked at, hasn't he? There's definitely, and there's another player at Ajax that's been looked at as well. Yeah, we're relentlessly looking at left wingers. So I would say if you're looking at the situation at the club, Manchester United are relentlessly looking for left wing players. It looks like we're moving to a 4-3-3, and we feel like maybe the right hand side's got enough options, and maybe we've got Lacey coming through, we've got Dorgu, Cunha, and Buemo, and Majalo. There's quite a decent amount of options. But I think Man United want to get a left-sided player to play a bit more, a bit wider. Maybe that does give Cunha a bit of option to maybe come into the centre a little bit. Where I think Cunha is very effective because he's somebody that I think Cunha keeps the ball slightly better than Bruno. He doesn't have the creative range of passing yet, but I think he could definitely step up there. But it would be a different way of playing, though, wouldn't it? So Tony, you'd keep him for 2 years. Be up to you, Jude. I'm looking forward to the match. I think this is going to be uh, the pressure's off somewhat regarding this one. So I think with the club that if we get a win against Sunderland, who've been a bit indifferent recently, maybe we can start seeing academy players in the last couple of matches. I do get the feeling that Michael Carrick, personally for him, to kind of give him a better chance of staying, he's going to want to win every single game. And if we finish the season winning 6 straight games, it's a really good. Yeah, it's a good catalyst for next season, and sometimes you need to finish strong, build the kind of like momentum, keep it going. So I think it's pretty positive. So Ty clause, I think it has to be a new contract due to that release clause. Always a danger of him leaving this summer with that in play. So I think this is when people are talking about the contract length, if you've got another couple of years, there is this release clause, which I think it's about 57 million, and it would be probably I think it's applicable to. I don't know if it's like non-Premier League clubs, but it would be. There's a lot of clubs in the Champions League that I'm sure would be looking at Bruno. The story I see sometimes is like Galatasaray want to make a move for Bruno. I'm pretty sure that's not on Bruno's mind, but there is potential like Bayern Munich or other big clubs. It could be that with Bruno Fernandes, it might depend on how long Bruno Fernandes thinks he can play at the top. If Bruno Fernandes thinks he's got another few years, you look at Manchester United, right? Can he win something at Manchester United in the next couple of years? Or is he going to be looking at a situation like Harry Kane, like Teddy Sheringham? Is he going to jump somewhere else and try and do that one as well? Culture Sport is saying that it's about continued dependency on Bruno rather than investing in real improvements. I think they're going to be investing in real improvements, like, but I think it's going to be that trying to do too much too quickly. The question would be is could you actually do both? Like, could you replace Bruno Fernandes and address all the issues we've got in midfield? Someone was talking about Casemiro. I think it feels like too much to do in a short space of time. There's a lot to try and fix in the club. It's tricky. Cake's saying 4-3-3 of our bang average defence. I think you're being a bit unfair on Man United's defence. I think defensively that okay, next season we might look at fullbacks, but if Manchester United are looking at left back players at the moment, and I think Aiden Heaven, Maguire, Yoro, Lissandro Martinez should be coming back. I think De Ligt will hopefully be back again. I think United have got enough there. I think it's not an average defence, but clearly work needs to be done to get it up to the top level. But there's clearly Aiden Heaven, if he's progressing very well, I think he could be a top quality defender. So it's not there yet, but it's not as bad as like some teams. Also, if you're gonna have three midfielders, if you drop someone like too many into your team or an Anderson, Tonali, you're going to be strengthening midfield. So in a way, if Manchester United strengthen midfield, it's gonna make the defense look better because Manchester United will be protecting the defense better. When we lose the ball in attack, we're not going to get run through. If we could have a defense that was kind of solid, like Newcastle have had recently, with a few good midfielders, it could be a very different team, couldn't it? So I think the idea is going to be that Man United will not get run through, and maybe we don't have the creative elements of Bruno Fernandes, but maybe we become actually very hard to play through and retain possession better. So it could be a different one. Yeah, no, I think Bruno Fernandes as well. He could be like a Scholes Giggs. He could be playing till late 30s. So it's not for me. It's not. So I think United should just be looking at making sure it's one thing fixing one part of the team, but I hope we don't fix one part of our team and then kind of take our eye off the other part. So signing for another 1+1, we get advantage of his leadership. So the problem with losing Bruno too quick is the void of leadership. We might get the next leader in while he's at the club. That this is probably exactly what I was saying at the start. Is that Casemiro's got a lot of experience. Bruno Fernandes got a lot of experience. If you're trying to replace everything in one go, it's like say if Man United lost Maguire, Bruno Fernandes, Casemiro, then forget what the players bring to the team. It's the leadership of the team's gone suddenly, and you have a lot of younger players coming through without these people. So I think if you keep Bruno Fernandes a couple more years, you're looking at Maguire staying next season. If too many came in to replace Casemiro, you're kind of like addressing a lot of the issues, I think, to start with. If you don't, Stephanie says, if we don't find a suitable replacement for Casemiro, then Mainu will struggle, and so will Bruno. No, it feels a bit like a very important transfer window, doesn't it? That I don't think we should have been like relying on Casemiro. I think there's a lot of good players out there. That there's a lot of good players we could be looking at trying to get into. And I don't think there's if United sign no midfielders, obviously we've got a massive problem. But I think there's actually quite a lot of options out there. Midnight for you. That's quite a late one. Hopefully it's a good one. And say until we get out of this one man team mentality, we will not win anything. What if Bruno gets injured and so everybody gets injured at some point? It is something that, yeah, I agree, Jim. Do you think is there going to be a situation at the club where they feel like Cunha can do that role or Mainu can do that role? I think the thing is to actually have some sort of reassurance. It'd be genuinely nice to actually see a game where these people do actually do that. But I think at the moment most people think Bruno Fernandes almost starts every single match, doesn't he? So, and as Tony says, one of our big problems has been being overrun in midfield this season. Yeah, that for me is a big issue as well. No, I think if you're having one holding midfielder, will 100% be run over. I don't agree. It depends on the individual players you got there. So I think a lot of it depends on the profile of the players. If you're looking at Manchester United at the moment, that clearly we've got an issue where if goes too far forward, he can't recover as quick. If you replace Casemiro with a more mobile player, then you've got a better chance. But also, if you're looking at adjusting the team shape, where Bruno Fernandes again might not be the quickest player to get back either. Yeah, I think if United change this with different player profiles, they will be. I think the idea is that United will not get overrun. Like it depends. It's not necessarily the formation; it's the players that are doing that as well. But no, there is an over reliance on Bruno. The thing is because Man United probably need to look at how they play. So two holding midfielders. It could be. It could be. Vril says, I figure Bruno could play into his late 30s, but moved deeper in 2 to 3 years. Good morning to you, Vril. No, I was just going to say, do you see like Bruno Fernandes moving further back, a little bit like Scholes, a little bit like Keane? The issue I've got is I think Bruno Fernandes, he's genuinely like he's world class when you put him further forward. And Bruno's strengths are the little dink passes, the kind of Beckham-esque kind of crosses to like people to score headers, the speed of like thought about how quickly he gets the ball forward. I'm not sure Bruno Fernandes is as effective. If Bruno Fernandes is in a deep position, I'm not sure. He's got the long range passing, so he could do that. No, he can put the passes into the corners. He could think it over. He's got the long range passing. So I don't know. I don't know if Bruno evolves, then maybe that's possible. I think considering he's what just turned is like 30, 31. The question is going to be if he plays to like 38, 39. What would like a 37, 38 Bruno be like? Would he be playing further forward? Would he be playing deeper? I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't have predicted that Giggs would play as a centre midfielder towards the end of his career, but he was extremely good. And I don't know when Roy Keane started, I think most people saw him as more attacking midfielder, and I wouldn't have predicted that Scholes would be more of a deep line playmaker either, because Scholes was pretty much trying to score goals, played almost like a second striker. So people can change, can't they? I think so, this season as well. People looked at Bruno's role, didn't like it, but I think there was a lot of issues wrong with the team. Do I think our front three can get us? Also, massive big up to you, Sar, for the super chat. Do you think our front three can get us through next season in Champions League? So I would say if you're looking at Sesko and Buemo Cunha, if I think we need more. Like if we're looking at those front three and we've got Dorgu plus Lacey as backups, I think we need more depth. Like this, I think Cunha's good and Buemo's good, but if you're looking and Sesko, but all of them throughout the season have had some. Like Sesko's had time out injured, or we've seen he might not play today, but he might be coming back. But he did go out last game with a knock. And Buemo does start most games, but Cunha's had a couple of times out where he's injured. I don't think there's enough depth so I think there's an issue at the club where that we got a lot of weaknesses across the team. The thing could be with United, they might feel that they can get one more attacking player. So I think they're looking at left winger and they're going to think, okay, that could be enough. So maybe they see Dorgu as someone that can play left or right, but Cunha plus a new signing would be left. Diallo plus Mbeumo would be right. If you think about it, there's quite a lot of times where Mbeumo's played as a striker. It's not the most effective, and it does kind of diminish a little bit from our setup in matches. So I think having no backup striker and expected how many games will we play next season? So if you got 38 Premier League games, you'd imagine a few domestic cup games, and you got probably at least 10 games in Europe. Then there's a lot more workload on the players. I think to try and go through with a limited squad is going to be a problem. There seems to be, I don't know, a bit of evidence that Man United, we need to get a lot of deals done this summer, don't we? We need to try and make sure we've got more depth because if we're expecting Sesko to start every single game, it's just going to cause a massive problem, isn't it? The thing is, that if you when you start looking at it, thinking, what things do we fix? It's almost like there's too much to do. This is why if Bruno became another thing we had to fix, it would be it would be too much to do, I think. I say we've got a £70 million player in Cunha. He's a number 10, not a winger. So maybe that's kind of the natural thing. Do you get the feeling that is part of the going for a winger? Is it going to be that we have Dorgu plus Diamonde or plus Rogers or plus if you're looking at who is the other option, Unai at Everton? So if you're looking at Man United linked to players, actually we're scouting that player from Ajax as well, who's a as a winger. And there's a lot of wingers being looked at. Rafael Leao was talked about a little bit. So we've got all these different winger options as potential players coming into the club. Some of them can play winger and play striker. So it could be that United are looking at someone that could do both. But I think ideally you'd be looking at maybe they're looking at moving Cunha inside then. Maybe potentially Cunha plays as a striker in some matches. Maybe Cunha is going to play in Bruno's position in some matches. So it does seem to be that maybe the front of our team might be a little bit less static and a bit more. No, maybe we could see players moved in different positions. So it could be that. But we do need to actually we need to consider that next season there's going to be way more games, like way more games than we've had. And morning, Clive. Good to see you in chat. Um, Jim's saying put Cunha in. I think they need to probably do it a little bit over time and see, see how they see what options they've got as well. So if the poll was new contract, only new contract or sell, yeah, there's options though, isn't it? If Man United wants to give a new contract, I suppose you've got to factor in the cost of how much it's going to be. It's going to be obviously quite expensive. But if you're looking at depends if you see as a resale value, then it's an issue, isn't it? No, cheers, real. Do I see any more players from the academy making it to the first team from next season other than Lacey or Fletcher? I think Thwaites is supposed to be up there. JJ is supposed to be getting involved as well. I think the academy has got a few names that maybe go from being, people we've been talking about. Lacey's clearly going to be one, but I think we might be seeing Thwaites step up and that he might be getting involved in the first team a bit more. Chido Obi apparently that maybe he might be getting involved again. Apparently, he stayed in the academy an extra year because I think there's a lot of things with Chido Obi he needs to work off the ball. So I think it's really difficult, isn't it, to predict? I think there's names being talked about, and I think you hear like JJ, you hear about Thwaites, you hear about Chido, and I think the difficulty is going to be that nobody knows until you drop them into the first team. I think we saw a very small amount from Lacey, and he looked good. Like Fletcher looks like a competent player as well. But you probably have to look at, you probably have to look at giving them a few games, a few minutes, see how they get on. And I think there's going to be like maybe we're going to be a bit surprised. There might be that some of the academy players do actually play a bit more than we're expecting because there's a lot of games. It's a good one, I think. It's one that as Man United fans, we kind of look at and think, also we forget that Aiden Heaven's only 19 as well, so he's probably going to be another player that gets more and more experience, gets more games. So no, it's not a bad thing, is it? I think United have got some good players coming through, and if we fix the first team, and it could be that someone like Thwaites is like the I don't know, like the fifth or sixth choice midfielder. So we can, or maybe fifth choice midfielder. So we got, we got a lot of extra games. And as I said, you could easily add 12, like 12 to 15 games, 10 games in Europe, like 5 games in domestic cups easily. Like so there should be an extra 15 games with better squad. I mean, I don't think anyone's expecting us to get knocked out of the first match in the League Cup and FA Cup again. So we're going to be looking at playing more football. And I think that also I think the academy players coming in, they won't come in and be expected to play every single match. And if we get a backup goalkeeper, if Vitek comes back to Manchester United as a backup, I think we need to take the League Cup quite seriously as well. That put out. Sometimes you look at this as a good kind of a good competition to get youngsters coming through, and maybe the Champions League as well could be that situation where, depending on how it goes, and that it's a long competition. Maybe there's some games in that where some academy players might be on the bench, might get a few minutes. So I think there's definitely going to be options. The Carabao Cup for me, if I was going to say, if you get drawn a weak team like we did this season, but we should have beaten Grimsby, obviously. But if you have that, then maybe it could be a mixture of mainly experienced players, but you need to bring in some academy players in those sort of matches. But we could be looking at putting Vitek in cup games anyway, so that could be a way of keeping him happy at the club. So it's a different problem, isn't it, for Man United? It's a good problem to have, though. If you've got to manage Champions League football with Premier League football, this is something that we need to be working on anyway. Devasa says a few from under 21s might get a chance now they've won against City in the final. I think from what we've been hearing, I remember talking about this about a week ago that they're considering that promoting Thwaites to the first team is going to happen, and I think that's going to be a factor that there's no point promoting players from the academy to the first team if they're going to sit on the bench watching. So I think Carrick's got a good. If Carrick's staying on, which I think most of us are thinking is probably going to happen, I think they'll be looking at that transition from academy to first team and trying to make that happen a bit quicker or a bit more, a bit smoother, say. So I think they're not going to suddenly be an academy player, suddenly a first team player, but maybe you'll see them if they think they're ready. Maybe we'll start seeing them. Maybe potentially we might see like a couple of appearances towards the end of the season. If we win today, we've got guaranteed third position. Obviously, we want to win games, but there's no doubt we could be looking at putting in one or two players from the academy, and I think that would be a positive thing to end the season. We did that under Ollie. I think we put in, if you remember, we played Wolves last day of the season. Alanga got the winner. It was largely an academy. It was a very young team, but the football was good. And I think if you're putting a few people in, like maybe you keep in like a few of the senior defenders, and you have like a squad. Like Casemiro will be, I'm sure he'll be playing every game or want to play every single game. But maybe you look at getting a few minutes in some of these players off the bench, give them an opportunity, just give them a bit of an experience of first team football. So there's a lot of positives to say regarding that one. Big up to you, Cody. So I've got a poll running. This isn't going to be a long stream today. So if you want to vote, please vote quite quickly. I will probably wrap up in about 5 minutes. I just wanted to address the Bruno Fernandes kind of story that was being discussed by a couple of journalists. I think with this one, though, Bruno Fernandes is definitely in the spotlight. Player of the season. In my mind, he's got the rightest Player of the Season award already. Man United, if we just if we win the last few games, we're probably picking up significantly more points than any team in the Premier League since Carrick took over. So, job done in terms of like Carrick for this season. And Bruno Fernandes will probably get more individual awards, and rightly so. He's been incredible, but you have to look at the future, long term future. I'd imagine there might be a couple of clubs wondering whether they can prize Bruno away. So yeah, it'd be interesting. Jim says we have to think of options. You can't play Bruno in the league, the Champions League, and cups. Yeah, yeah. Bruno Fernandes is staying at the club. He can't. If you remember the Skulls and Gigs, they gradually played less games. The question, I suppose, is going to be that based on the age Bruno is, a lot of people think he's going to hit the wall. I think they could be looking at. I think we could be looking at Bruno having a longer career than people think. So it could be a bit like Harry Kane. I think some players will just have long football careers, and for Man United, it's about yeah. Do we need to move Bruno on, or could Bruno be? Could Bruno actually feature in a Manchester United team that can win the Premier League? And at the moment, you'd say, well, Man United, we had no European football, but in games against the top teams this season, we've shown we can beat Liverpool, City, Arsenal, Aston Villa, Chelsea over just the last few months. So there's no doubt that there's a platform there. It depends on how much the Champions League takes out of the squad, and that's something that no one knows until we actually get until we actually get transfers done. No one's going to know how much that takes out of the team. Now we don't know. This is a little treat as well. It's a bit like the '90s. We're playing at 3 p.m. on a Saturday. It's great, isn't it? It's finally I can't remember. We don't seem to play on Saturdays anymore, do we? We seem to be playing on like random times. I think was it last week? It was like 3:30. The worst ones are like 8 p.m. on a Saturday. It's stupid times. But I'll have a look at the poll. If you want to vote, you got about well a few seconds. So looking at the results. What should Man United do with Bruno Fernandes? So the best option for Bruno Fernandes, a new contract say 70% of people. There's only 17% say sell Bruno and 13% say let Bruno's contract run down, which I think it's got about another couple of years. Potentially there might be an option with that one, but that's so most people are think not wanting to get rid of Bruno. Very small percentage say sell. I think it's probably because if you sell Bruno Fernandes, yeah, if the price was going to be like 200 million, we've got a conversation. But if it's going to be like 55 or something like that, then effectively we'd sell Bruno Fernandes. We wouldn't get a lot for him, and someone else would benefit from having a player in his prime, which is something we don't want. So it looks like the fans have voted. If anyone's got any final like comments or questions you want to make, we will be doing a lot of live streams this afternoon. We're going to be starting at about 1:30, I think, build up myself and other guests and build up to the Manchester United versus Sunderland game. And then we'll be doing a special show at full time as well for people to get involved with as well. So if anyone knows, the game is generally, I think in the UK, it's generally like on Five Live on BBC. I don't know about BBC World Service might be covering commentary again. I think if you like, probably I think if you want people like just reactionary shouting over each other, Talk Sport will do something, I'm sure. But no, if you want to listen to the watch long we're doing, we'll be doing that watch long covering the match as well. So if you want to, like, Vril, maybe get involved with the watch long because there will be hopefully a couple of people on screen talking through the game and discussing the events that are happening as well. So that might be something. I don't know why I was promoting the BBC to start with. No, obviously the watch long is where you need to be. So the watch long on this channel will be covering the match from from about one, I think 1:30. We'll go through kind of initial thoughts. Myself, we are better going to be on screen. Then we're going to be handing over to commentators for the match, and then we're going to be doing the stream at full time, a separate stream. But yeah, no, hopefully they'll be talking about that. But we'll be covering like sort of the build up with when the lineups come out, etc., and that as well. So will somebody said this actually? Would United give Casemiro the captain's armband for Forest home game? I know they might do. They might do. So it's possible, isn't it? It is possible they could be doing that. So it'd be quite a nice gesture. Casemiro has really stepped up, and he's a major reason why we're going to get third in the league. So yeah, why not? I mean, Casemiro has been like a perfect professional, hasn't he? This season and other seasons, and a good role model at the club, which unfortunately, we're going to have to try and replace with that one. So I don't know if they will. I've not heard anything. I've heard people talk about it, so I don't know. But that would be for me would be something good. So if they did that, nice gesture to Casemiro. I don't think he's going to stay at the club anyway, but it would be quite nice. I say sell Bruno 70%, definitely Arsenal and Liverpool fans hijacking. Yeah, people have different views, don't they? Debassis. I mean, it's one that's going to be. I thought it was I thought it'd be interesting to see when we had this discussion about 12 months ago on the channel. It was very much people said like selling because the money was going to be incredibly high, but things have changed and people have different opinions. Yeah, I used to listen to radio a lot as well. I listened to the radio commentary when Cantona went crazy, and with the Crystal Palace game, and the radio commentators were going mad. And I remember when I watched it back on TV, I was like, "Wow!" Karthik said, "I think our final home game is when Carrick gets announced." It could be, it could be. I think the commentators in the UK, maybe not as much now, but the commentators in the UK used to be incredibly good and very very descriptive, very good at like taking you along with the game, and you hear the crowd noise and the excitement. It's that I think it's sometimes radio commentary is very good, and sometimes you look at the radio commentary and then you look at the match after and think, hang on a minute, that sometimes it tells a different story. Sometimes yeah, it seems when you're watching it live, but when you can't see it on the radio, it kind of feels more tense. Sometimes if you're like the worst game I listened to on the radio was Man United trying to beat West Ham on the last day of the 1994-95 season where we couldn't score. That was the worst one I've listened to on the radio because it was just frustrating and annoying. But guys, we're gonna head off. But look, probably about 1 p.m. on the channel, we will start the watch long then. So hopefully you guys can get involved. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. There's, I think, about half people that watch don't subscribe, but everything's free on the channel. And getting involved, help us push towards 1K would be fantastic. But we'll be doing loads of streams this afternoon, so please get involved if you want to talk about the match. I've got quite a few people organised to come on after the match as well, so that should be quite a fun stream. So please get involved. I put a few more custom emojis in the chat based on like increased channel membership as well. So thank you guys for supporting the channel in that way as well. And I got the Glazer out emoji back. I did put the Cantona emoji as a more recognisable Cantona face because it was quite difficult. But big up to you guys. And if I don't see you before, make sure you enjoy the match as well. And next time we speak, hopefully we can have a discussion about Man United locking up third place and getting another good victory. And Bruno Fernandes edging towards that assist record as well. Could that happen today? I think Bruno Fernandes is like odds on to get an assist today, so he's going to be very, very close to that record. Maybe we can do that on our final home game. That'd be great to see. Can you imagine Bruno Fernandes breaking the record during a match and the crowd going crazy? That would be something special. So that's something to look forward to as well. But cheers, guys. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.